There are over 7 billion people inhabiting our planet. This means there are over 7 billion different experiences occurring in each moment. With each experience, we create our own unique story. Oftentimes, the very stories we create can seem to separate us. But are we that different? The same stories that separate us can be the glue that binds us together. I'm Paul E. Hendricks, an author searching for more human connection. Welcome to The Bridge. Born and raised in a housing project in Waianae on the island of Oahu, Charles Hew-Len is a restaurant owner, real estate mogul, and entrepreneur. He was recently touted in Hawaii Business Magazine as one of Hawaii's top 20 emerging leaders that will have an indelible impact on Hawaii over the next 20 years. At 40 years old, a father of 3 children and engaged to be married, Charles is at the top of his game. However, it wasn't that long ago when he hit rock bottom. Each episode of The Bridge is centered on a thought-provoking theme. In this story, we explore triumph through adversity.
I guess what the point in my life where things really had affected me and where my life is currently was when I had been locked up in prison. You know, I went to prison, got sentenced for 8.5 years in federal prison for conspiracy to distribute. Basically, I was a drug dealer. And, you know, I wanted to create success. You know, I wanted more. You know, I didn't know how to do it. I just knew that I wanted more. And I modeled certain people, certain things that I grew up with growing up from the west side of Waianae. And I wasn't sure exactly what I was doing. You know, I just knew that I wanted to do more, and I was trying to do whatever it took. And the cause of that, you know, I created some success in doing that. But the cause of that, beyond the pain and suffering that I was involved with, as far as, you know, getting people addicted to drugs and things of that nature, was in 2001, was it March, where it all came crumbling down, and I got arrested and got sentenced to 8.5 years in prison.
So, what did the pain feel like when you first got to prison?
It was devastating. I could feel myself. It's like the life, it just got sucked right out of me. I could feel myself. I remember the day that I got arrested, when I was walking into the building, and right from the back of me, a whole bunch of guys just tackled me, pinned me up against the wall. At first I was scared. I thought I was getting mugged or something, thinking, what the heck is this? And I looked back, I seen all these guys covered with masks and handcuffed me, and I looked inside. I could see the window, and I looked inside of the building. I could see guys rushing out with like these shields and helmets, and I could just feel my whole, just like the life just got sucked right out of me. I just almost as if I just was about to experience the end of my life.
The world just collapsed.
Everything just collapsed. You know, in that moment when it all happened, the biggest thing that had affected me in that moment was the fact that I had lost everything. Beyond the physical things, but emotionally, I've lost family. I felt I've lost the admiration of people, of friends, of my own parents. Like, I remember having that call. One of the very first calls that I've had was, talking to my dad after, I finally all happened. It just happened, and it was all over the news. And talking to my dad, and just hearing it's like he had this gasp, like he couldn't even really say anything. He just was like, he couldn't even say anything. And the fact that he couldn't say anything, being my father, this guy that I've looked up to for so many years, all my life, pretty much, for him not to be able to say anything, I knew he was in a lot of pain. And the disappointment that I caused him, and I just imagined the disappointment I caused my family, my children, because I had 3 very young children at the time.
What is it that took you from, I guess you can consider being in prison adversity.
Right.
You're pretty much can't go anywhere. You're in a box, even going to the halfway house. And I want to understand, what was your mindset from that place of, I'm going to take the knowledge that I have, and used that to not only accumulate some wealth and business and start living the dream life that you wanted to live and help others. What was that like? What was the process that you went through thinking about that, and how did you make that change from, I'm not going to let prison hold me back?
Mm-hmm. I think the original onset, I've thought about that question for a while. I've been asked that question quite a bit, and typically the answer that I give is that when I was going in that direction, when I started to head in that direction of creating success, creating wealth, not so much on a exterior circumstances, but also on inside, when I started going and learning about what it takes to create success. But what I think really was the catalyst that drove that was the just being disturbed. I think that was the number one thing. Success to me is having the ability to live the life that you want. That's what success means to me. It's not about the money. It's about being able, of course, everybody thinks money is a huge thing. It's a part of it. But I believe that having success is about spending the time the way you want it.
Or when was it that you realized, you thought, I know I was made for something better than this? You had brought that up. What was it that brought that to your attention? Was it the anger, the pain? I mean, what was it that brought you to that point? And then what did you think you were made for? What bigger things?
It was through that pain, through experiencing the pain, I realized I'm experiencing so much pain that this couldn't be right. This couldn't be what I was meant to be, because this was just way too painful for me. And what I realized, it was interesting. I remember laying down, I think I was laying down in my bunk bed, and I was going through these flashes of moments that happened in my life. And thinking, going back to when I was a kid, I started thinking when I would when I would play with my friends and really want to help people, really cared about people. The love that I had for people and wanting to see people happy and wanting to give people what they wanted. I would do things like, I remember thinking as a child, I would take old stuff, like an old book, and I would wrap it up to give it away. Using brown paper bags, not even really thinking about what it was more the fact that I just wanted to help people. And when I started flashing back on these things, and a lot of different things just started flashing through my mind, how as a kid, I never even wanted to hurt. And I remember, I thought this was kind of silly, but I remember taking, I would see like an ant, and I would want to go and rescue the ant, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just as a kid. But as I started looking back and all of these things, it's like these flashes of moments in my life when I was young where I was just so lively, and I just wanted to help people, and I just wanted everybody to be happy, and I wanted to be loved too. I just wanted to feel like I was making a difference. And when these moments started going to my mind, and I just felt this huge, I just broke down. I just started crying. I just started crying because I realized that somewhere along the way I lost my direction, because that's not who I was. Somewhere along the way, this is not who I was designed to be. And because of what I realized, these things that I used to do when I was a kid. And it was from that moment I realized that I was designed for something better. I knew, it says, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. I went along this path, and I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to go back to living that being this kid who just wanted to help people, wanted to make a difference, wanted to see smiles in other people's faces, wanting to know that somehow, because of me, their day just is a little bit brighter and better. Adversity is opportunity. Adversity is opportunity. Adversity is the opportunity to discover who you are, or who we are, who I am, and it's an opportunity for us to grow. It's an opportunity that allows us to see the thing that's beyond that. Because people who experience adversity, I believe, are people who are going for it.
So where you're at now, not only your level of success in your business, your relationships with your fiance and your kids, do you think the events that happened where you got busted and went to prison, were they necessary in that journey to get to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that the biggest struggle, and what I've learned from that, was that the biggest struggle in my life has been the most biggest benefits for me. It was a learning experience in everything that I've gone through, and being that this was the most painful, it gave me the biggest benefit. There's nothing that has been so life-changing for me than going through that experience. Not so much the prison, not necessarily prison itself, they cause it, but the emotional journey that I've gone through, the emotional discovery, the discovery that I went through internally because of this event, which I don't believe you necessarily need to go to prison for it.
Sure.
You can get a divorce, you can lose someone you love, you can get into a car accident or whatever. A lot of these events that I believe that are the most challenging, at least for me, it has always been the most beneficial, and it's there as long as I find it and I look for it, and then I've always find it.
It almost even sounds like it's in your story, and maybe this isn't a lot of stories, it's not even triumph through adversity, it's triumph from adversity.
Yes.
Using that adversity as a springboard to create the life that you want.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it always necessarily takes a painful experience or tragedy. I think in your case, it sounds like, remembering who you really were, you created something to get back to that place, even if it was, a different level of tragedy or seriousness, like going to prison, that was the necessary steps you had to experience to become the great man that you are now, and have the great relationships that you have now, and the impact that you're having not only on the community in Hawaii, but all around the country, and I see all around the world. And that's great hearing. That was a very exceptional point you made about getting back to remembering who you really are at your core. I think a lot of people, myself included, forget that oftentimes when we're going through life and start getting mixed up in what you mentioned, who we think we are, who we want people to see us as, and you want people to see you as successful and powerful. And that's why your story is so inspirational to people. It's inspirational to me, and I see why that's why you're going to do great things. So from that adversity comes this great triumph, great success in life, as a man, as a future husband, father, businessman. And I'm really grateful for you sharing that. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and also help remind people. Maybe they'll start thinking, who am I really? Who was that person I wanted to be when I was a little kid? So that's awesome. Very, very inspired. There are over 7 billion people inhabiting our planet. This means there are over 7 billion different experiences occurring in each moment. With each experience, we create our own unique story. Oftentimes, the very stories we create can seem to separate us. But are we that different? The same stories that separate us can be the glue that binds us together. I'm Paul E. Hendricks, an author searching for more human connection. Welcome to The Bridge.